What's going on, guys? We have Winnie the Pooh, Demon Hunter, Volume 2. This has been a series I've been enjoying so far. I have, I think, up to 5 volumes so far of this one. It's, I won't say it's like the most unique approach, but I do appreciate that at least once we took the Winnie the Pooh IP, which became public domain, we didn't go straight into the horror. We went with more of an adventure series. Uh, Even though it's called Demon Hunter, it's not just straight up like demonic stuff the whole time around. There's more going on than just that. So I definitely appreciate a more creative approach than just straight up, hey, let's take this public domain thing and throw it into the horror genre. So in the first issue, we have Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. They live in the Hundred Acre Woods, of course, but we see that the Hundred Acre Woods is split up into 4 different factions, all with their own king or queen. These two live under the leadership of Snow White, and they are part of the Red Riding Hood Demon Hunters group. And they're on a search for Piglet. He went missing, and they're just trying to track down some leads. This leads them to a confrontation with the Gingerbread Man. And this confrontation that they had with him leads to a lot of destruction of Humpty Dumpty's city. Now, I feel really ridiculous for saying all of everything that just came out of my mouth, but it all works. And I really enjoyed what we're going through. And then we have Evelyn over here. She helps them out and also lets them know that they're in deep shit. And we're going to see the repercussions of all of the destruction of that city right here in the very beginning. So let's just get right on into it. So, Volume 2, and everything written and illustrated by Nick Mueller. And I think he does a pretty good job here. So, Chapter 3, Trial and Misery. And so we start off Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh. They're both on trial for the destruction of that town. And they're trying to explain that they just felt like leadership wasn't doing enough to find Piglet, and that they're trying to do it on their own. And that they made they took an oath, made an oath with Piglet, and let him know, like, hey, we're always going to look out for you. Now leadership over here is saying, well, if I recall, Piglet took the same oath that you guys did and knew the risks becoming a demon hunter. So, we can't just be going all crazy just because one of our members goes missing. And so Christopher Robin makes one last effort and tries to appeal to Snow White, but before she can even get an answer, he gets cut off by the rest of the council members. And even Eeyore over here, who's like overseeing everything, he's like, that was a really foolish move to try and to appeal to the queen so hastily. And so I do feel like they get a little bit of a slap on the wrist. Perhaps the council is trying to appeal to what they're doing. It's like, hey, look, I get you're looking for your friend, but we gotta punish you for this. And given all the destruction that they're responsible for, I do feel like this is a bit of a slap on the wrist. And they get taken off missions for a little bit and instead are put on guard duty. So, really not too terrible. And I definitely understand why that they would get punished. They didn't do the right things. They were off hunting on missions that they were not given. They didn't say anything to anyone. They were just doing their own thing. They were off being rogue agents, and so yeah, they need to be punished, and that's why I feel like it's kind of a slap on the wrist here. And so they leave, and Evelyn's like, okay, well, hey, you guys got off lucky, which agreed. Meet me down in the lobby in 5 minutes. We'll get you ready for guard training. And instead of going to the lobby, they go over and visit with Owl. And wanted to see if Owl has dug up any leads on the whereabouts of Piglet. Owl lets him know that it looks like Wonderland is where he's at. Not 100% certain, but given everything that they've gathered, that's the most likely. And also, that's not the only thing that they've encountered. and see like things for like members and symbols for the Blood Demon group. And now Christopher Robin, he is extremely interested in this and wants to know more on this. And Owl goes on to say, as we're given some, I guess, kind of flashback, but anytime that one of these Blood Demon members have been discovered and approached, they just kind of disappear without a trace. And so they have nothing on it. And apologizes for the lack of leads there. But they get broken up by Evelyn, who's like, okay, well, now I'm just going to send you to your room for disobeying about meeting in the lobby. So they're over here, and, Pooh's letting out some... He's blowing off some steam by hitting the punching bag, while Christopher Robin, he's kind of reflecting on the whole thing with the blood demons here. And this takes him into a past memory that he has, and we have his father here, and they're helping him collect wood, and Christopher Robin's talking with his dad right here, and his dad is noticing this figure back here kind of painting on the wall, and he's like, that's just hurry on home. So he's already got a bad feeling about that hooded figure back there. He's not the only one. The mom is also wary of the hooded figures and brings this up with her dad, or with their dad, her husband. And he's like, look, we got a city council thing going on about these hooded figures, and we'll bring up whatever concerns and see what they're going to make of it. And so we flash over to the council, and I'm not sure if this is like a mayor or something like that. I'm just going to refer to him as the mayor, just for the sake of clarity. And most of the townspeople are not exactly... they don't feel good about these hooded guys either. And the mayor over here, he's just trying to calm everyone down. It's like, look, ever since they came into our town, it has flourished. These guys are feeding the hungry, tending to the sick and the injured, and also warding off some demons. And all that they ask for is a place to stay and a place to worship. And, how can we just turn them away with such a nice deal? And then Christopher Robin's dad, he steps up and he's like, well, what about this? Can we explain this? And goes on about how their rituals require a large sacrifice. Like, care to explain this one? Can we get some sort of explanation here? And before the mayor can really finish his thought here, he's already on the defense of these hooded guys, but they go ahead and blast him right off the bat. He's gone. The mayor, bye-bye. And this catches the dad off guard, obviously. And so that ends Chapter 3. We go right into Chapter 4, titled Origins. And we pick up from here. So the hooded figure guy, he's just like, oh, well, this is going to make a great sacrifice. I thank you all for being participants in this, and then goes ahead and just blows up most of the town, and they disappear along with it. Christopher Robin's dad's like, I need to go get to my family. And so we cut over. We got Christopher Robin and Pooh here, and they're trying to dig Christopher's mom right out of the rubble here, and they're desperately trying. They just don't have the strength to get her out of there and lift the debris, while the dad is making his way over to him. He makes it over there. She says one last "I love you" before it looks like she dies here. And the dad picks up the other two and runs them out of town. And Christopher Robin is obviously very concerned about his mother just staying there. He drops off Pooh and Chris and says, I'm going to go look for survivors. I'll be right back. And then before anything can be done, a big explosion happens, sending Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh off and just onto the ground. And we see he catches a little bit of a nap, and he's woken up by the Red Riding Hood group, who said that he and Winnie the Pooh are the only known survivors, and to go ahead and take them to the castle. So they make it to the castle, and we see Eeyore's here along with Evelyn. And when Eeyore sees him, he said, get these guys ready for training. There's some about their... looks like there's like some sort of driving motivation in their eyes he wants to use for helping the Red Riding Hood group. We then cut back to present day, and we see that Christopher Robin has made his way into the library and is just doing some studying when Evelyn shows up behind him and is like, "What are you doing? What are you up to?" She does ask, what's all the reading material for? And he's like, you wouldn't understand. Don't worry about it. And she's like, you think you're the only one with some extra baggage, in your history? And then this is where we get confirmation that she was, in fact, that little girl from the little short story at the end of issue 1 or volume 1. And that she was the only survivor of that demon that Eeyore saved her from. And she goes to comfort Christopher Robin. It's like, it's okay. It's not all that bad. And Christopher Robin's like, I long for the simpler days back in training where we were and when Pooh used to just mess up every bit of training and ruin it all. So then we flash back to that and we see Christopher Robin was rather aggressive with his sparring partners, and this would frustrate and irritate Eeyore, and kept telling him, "Hey, knock it off. These are supposed to be your brothers and sisters. You don't need to be so rough on them. Take it easy." And we get a little bit of an idea that he's kind of a paranoid guy because he hears a little bit of rustling from the pantry as he's trying to put some wisdom into Christopher Robin here, and goes to investigate the crash in the pantry, and it's Winnie the Pooh just stuffing his face. So we flash back to current day and see them kind of chuckling about, Pooh Bear just being a silly old bear. And that's when Pooh happens to come across and is like, how can you be laughing at a time where Piglet's missing? And Christopher Robin's like, hey, don't worry, we haven't given up on him or anything like that. We're going to find him. But Evelyn now breaks the happiness here and is like, hold on. And then approaches the two that were in front of her and Christopher Robin and is like, let me see your guys' badges. You don't seem familiar. I got a weird feeling about you. And rightfully so, because she immediately gets hit. And then the two chuckle and talk about how easy it is and reveal themselves to be part of the big bad wolves. And so, big old fight. Oh, sorry. Chapter 5, Storm in the Castle. That's where we are kicking off now. And so, big old fight ensues. And Christopher Robin gets smacked into a wall. Pooh Bear, he comes over. He's punching one of the wolves in. And Evelyn's throwing some knives at another. I always forget what they're called. But yeah, they're getting dealt with. But unfortunately, they're not the only two wolves. As we get more Red Riding Hood members and letting them know, hey, there's a lot more on approach, so it's all hands on deck at this point. And yeah, you see a lot more wolves just break right through. They huff and puff and come right through the wall. And so it's a big-ass battle going on, and we see all sorts of things with, Pooh Bear, Evelyn, various other Red Riding Hood members. Hell, even Eeyore gets in on this. He's out there dishing out the pain train. All hell's breaking loose. More wolves come in. More are just doing all sorts of damage. So more Red Riding Hood members come through. And just one after one, lots of fighting continues until ultimately the wolves are dispatched. There's a little time for celebration before another one gets up and starts making his way over to the Queen's chambers. And we got Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh both in pursuit. And so, like I said, the wolf makes it into Snow White's chambers and is like, oh, you're done for now, woman. And he is quickly stopped by Winnie the Pooh. So he comes in right at the last second and saves the queen. And then they come to investigate and see a little calling card in the wolf's pelt there. And it's the Queen of Hearts. So it was clearly a message being sent. And so Eeyore asks Snow White, what do we do now? And she's like, well, I was hoping that the truce would hold, and I want to keep the peace, but sometimes to keep the peace, you must fight. And we need everyone in for this, so we're going to be getting some more members in. We then later cut over and see one of the wolves here begging for forgiveness from the Queen of Hearts. And as we see displayed on her wall, she's not exactly very forgiving, and nor is she here. So she says the famous lines, off with his head, and away he goes. As we see that she says right here at the end, prepare the troops for war. So now this is the second leader who we see is preparing for war. Well, I guess now technically third, because Snow White is also getting ready for war. So we have Mother Goose, Snow White, and now the Queen of Hearts all ready for war. And then we get a little quick glimpse of Volume 3, and we see Winnie the Pooh squaring off against Rabbit. So what's that all about? I guess we'll find out here soon enough. Now, there is a little short story in the back, just like with the other one, but it's not exactly relevant. It's just kind of for funsies, so I'm just going to skip that one today. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. I just want to kind of keep us more story-focused on this, and that one's not really relevant to our story. So, but ultimately, I really like what we're doing here. We're expanding the world in a way that doesn't feel rushed or anything like that, nor does it feel slow. I feel like we have a very good pace as far as world building and things like that. I do like that our heroes had to deal with the consequences of their actions from Volume 1, where they destroyed a city. They need to be punished for this. Now, I like I said, I think that they're getting a bit of a slap on the wrist, and I have no problems with that. I think it's perhaps because the council felt some sort of pity from their, more or less a sob story. It's like warranted, yes, they're looking out for one of their brothers, but it more or less is just a sob story. It doesn't justify their actions. But it did enough to maybe lessen the punishment on them. So I do appreciate that our heroes are facing consequences of their actions. That is not something that a whole lot of people will always put in, especially in more modern times. So it's good to see that actions have consequences, even if it's understandable what their actions are for. And I like how I said this in the previous issue or previous volume, that this feels within spirit of these characters. And yeah, it's a stretch to think that Winnie the Pooh is going to be running around with a chainsaw beating up all sorts of bad guys based on the knowledge that we have. But we've put him into this situation, into this world, and yet I still feel like he is keeping in spirit with the Winnie the Pooh that we all grew up with. So I do appreciate that, and that's what keeps me going after all these issues, is I don't feel like we completely butchered the character just because. Like, I think that we're putting him in a new and interesting situation, but still keeping him familiar. And I certainly appreciate that, and I can't stress that enough. So definitely a recommend. I'd say that so far, this book's probably somewhere around an 8 out of 10. There's nothing really major that stuck out to me. You have to be able to kind of bend some things, and that's kind of why I lower the score a little bit. It's nothing really that Nicholas Mueller did. It's just really you kind of gotta work with it. But I still very much recommend this book overall. It's been a very entertaining series, and like I said, I think I have about 5 volumes of this one so far. Plus, I've reached out and gotten some other of Nicholas Mueller's work, so I can say that in its own is just a huge recommendation right there, that I'm willing to spend more of my money to go get more of these things. So now if this sounds like something you want to check out for yourself, be sure to look at the link in the description where you can get a copy for yourself, or at least 2 to follow should any second chance campaigns arise. But that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.